Whew, we're now finally jumping to the Super Nintendo at long last for that particular generation because, well, it just took way too long to finally get to it. Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Mega Man here from the likes of the Merxy Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of the Mega Man Marathon for our set of Let's Plays for Mega Man games. Now, you remember last time that Twilight Sparkle has recently finished up with Mega Man 6, and now this time around our Rarity is going to be she's the only one. She's now going to be tackling through the latest games on the actual, well, not the latest, but in new forms of the next generation of the forms of the Mega Man series, and those new forms of Mega Man 7, now finally being released on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or in this case in the 16-bit world. So even then though, can't wait to see how that one turns out. And as far as the actual length of the Mega Man series goes, it'll get a lot more longer because now they're going to be adding some of these additional stages here and there as well. So even though you guys can clearly tell until when she managed to come towards that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's all I can really think about this, to be honest with you guys. Even then, really looking forward until when we get to the very end, because as far as I'm aware, because well, we've only got 5 more games left until we're able to finish up with this entire marathon. So even then, we've got Mega Man 7, which Rarity is going to be doing that today, and Mega Man 8, Mega Man and Base, Mega Man 9, and finally Mega Man 10. So even then, I can't wait to actually just manage to, like, well, and not to mention, we're almost at the halfway point of August already. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get into the actual main action in a 16-bit world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mega Man 7. On to you, Rarity. In the year 20XX AD, the world cheered Mega Man when, at long last, he captured and imprisoned Dr. Wily. Because that immediately takes place after the events of Mega Man 6. But Dr. Wily always knew his scheme might end in failure, and had planned for just such an occasion. 4 robots had been hidden away, and after 6 months, without being contracted by Dr. Wily, Willy, they activate and begin searching for their master. Hey, what is up everyone, and ponies and brownie fans out there, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rarity here from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, we've finally now jumped into the 16-bit universe of Mega Man 7. This thing can't go any faster, Otto. The city is under attack. I'll try and punch it up in a notch and hold up that roll. I can't believe Wily is loose again and that madman never stops. Once Dr. Light give Russian in, yeah, it's kinda hard to able to actually just read some text when it goes faster. Whoa! End of a line, the road is too unstable to keep it going. You two wait here. Mega Man, take this helmet with you. Whoops, that's the wrong helmet. I guess not. Personally, I kinda like the other one, which is the blue one, so, yeah. He's now ready for action, but now this time in the 16-bit universe. Good luck, Mega Man. Thanks, Ro, but I think I got this already. Dr. Light, are you okay? I'll bring back Roll to take care with you. No, Mega Man, we have no time. Wily is using the attack of his robots to cover his escape. Look! I can see how this is going. Yep, I should have known. You've got to go now, Mega Man. Get Rush and follow Wily's spaceship. Or for this point in onwards, I might as well call it Dr. Willy because, well, that's what normally how these reviews are usually just managed to accept this fact. Now, unlike in any other Mega Man games, most notably the previous 6 entries in the series, that Mega Man 7 actually begins with an intro stage for once, which kind of does the same thing for both Mega Man 8 and Mega Man and Base until we get to those games. And first off, we got ourselves the first boss throughout, which appears to be a giant robot with this little roller. It always reminds me like a steamroller for some reason, but even I know he's pretty simple if you know what you're doing. But basically, you have to dodge this particular saw blade hair of all things, and then once you do with that, then you would able to continue on. So just dodge those bottomless pits, and you should be fine. So, what the heck? Who's this robot? Huh? I wonder who that is. Well, he starts immediately attacking us, so yeah, you should able to actually hit a few shots at him, and boom, he's down. You are as good as they say, Mega Man. You better tell me who you are. I am Bass, and he's Treble. Oh, a musical reference I see there. We have been trying to stop Dr. Wily while you were gone. Really? I see now that you don't need our help. Because I'm the only one who's gonna be stop Dr. Wily. Bass? I guess we better need to find some answers of what he was gonna be look like. And just like before, you need to use these passwords and oh, only 4 Robot Masters this time around. Huh. That's a bit different. But because I was more used to with the forms of the previous games in this series, that they usually normally has like 8 Robot Masters. So yeah, I guess that makes it more obvious. So yeah, let's get started right there. We're gonna be getting things started with Freeze Man. So yeah, I'm presuming that usually takes place in an icicle themed level of any kind. So yeah, you get the drill from this point. So anyways, if you ever played any other Mega Man games before up to this point, like the forms of the previous 6 entries in the series in the forms of the NES, But now this time around though, it's in forms of the Super Nintendo, so that means there are, not only does it brings us into much more richer, vibrant colors into the forms of this 16-bit system, but also you do have more buttons to your disposal, because on the Super Nintendo, you do have a directional pad as usual, and you do have 4 face buttons this time around by the forms of the addition to A and B, but now you've got yourselves an X and Y buttons to your disposal. And also you can now finally use your shoulder buttons as much as you want to as your disposal. So even then though, that you can do some more things with the controls wise. So yeah, that's actually pretty cool stuff in general. So anyways though, you know, Mega Man still can perform some sliding abilities in addition to a charge shot and even a Mega Buster as a result. And also the returning forms of Mega Man 3, 4, and 5 that Mega Man once again allows you to able to use the Rush Coil, which even then allows you to able to bounce higher into those higher areas. So everything else checks out there for the most part for Mega Man 7, so, but except the fact that it's now in 16-bit world. So, and of course, as you can see on this little saving icon right on the top, on the bottom left corner, for the most part, I'm going to be playing this on the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 compilation because, well, first of all, it's an entirely crisper HD quality, and also there's no load times and stuff. And in addition to that, though, we're originally trying to do this on the Super Nintendo, on the Nintendo Wii U's Virtual Console version, or even the recently that how the fact that this game also releases on the forms of the new Nintendo 3DS systems only, because you know the Super Nintendo only plays on the new Nintendo 3DS systems, whilst in the original 3DS systems, it will no longer going to be functions-wise. So, and as you can see, we managed to get ourselves one of our new abilities for Rush, and as you can tell, that we actually got ourselves the forms of Rush Researcher, which even then, or in this case Rush Search, which even then, we'll get some more details onto that as soon as we're able to use that ability for Rush. So, and if you couldn't tell already, that in the forms of Freeze Man stage, that we've actually got ourselves one of our Rush letters by the forms of H, which even then, if you manage to collect them, all these 4 letters, which kind of like the same thing for how it does it back in Mega Man 6, the fact of the matter is though, is that if you collect them all, things were able to actually, something really happens if you manage to collect all 4 letters. So, if that's the case, regrettably, then you probably recognize it as soon as that little thing just felt to be become. So anyways, here we go with the first Robot Master in the forms of Mega Man 7 we have is Freeze Man. Now, this might actually be by far is one of the more difficult first Robot Master to tackle with, if you want to able to do it that way. I think it's most likely it's pretty obvious because of how the fact that he moves so fast, and in addition to that, he also has way too many attacks, and even then, you need to be very super accurate with this boss fight, because if you do not pay attention to that whatsoever, then you might as well get hit a lot, especially noticeable how the fact that with these icicle cones from the ceiling, and also in addition to that, he might actually just maneuver all over the place, and plus the arena itself is super small. I do know there's a weakness to this particular Robot Master, but we didn't have that ability just yet, so even then, and also you need to jump at the right time whenever he's trying to freeze on you, or even just stunts you for either overhead, or even especially noticeable from the floor. So as you can see right there, they have to purposely jump all over the place. Don't jump all the time though, because, well, you might as well able to lose some of your health instantly. So there we go, folks. That concludes Freeze Man stage. So I can't believe that stage, or in this case for this boss fight, can get pretty tricky sometimes. Especially noticeable, it's like almost very similar to the likes of how he does it in the forms of Iceman, and especially noticeable with what's another level I was going to be thinking of? Oh yes, Blizzard Man stage from Mega Man 6, and especially noticeable for Flash Man stage from Mega Man 2. So, yeah, after all that, then we got ourselves a Robot Master's weapon. So we've got ourselves the first weapon in the lineup we have is Freeze Cracker. So we might as well be able to use that as soon as we're able to actually use in current situations, because now we're going to be heading off to the next Robot Master we might as well able to go through, and that's the forms of Burst Man stage. So even then, because of that though, his weakness is the forms of the Burst Man's weapon, or in this case the Freeze Man's weapon. So hopefully we should be able to count for this point. So now I don't know if you noticed for this point, folks, is the fact that my voice is actually going a little bit more off today. I think it's most likely because of how the fact that I had a really late night last night, because for the love of God, I always have a really hard time sleeping during the likes of last night because, well, to be more accurately, because of how the fact that I always keep on eyeing out for my packing, especially with fashionable design parts. So yeah, that makes it a little bit obvious at this point. So anyways, as you can see, we got ourselves these little bomb-like platforms, just like in new forms of how it does in Mega Man 6. But even then, note that you have to jump at the right time before you're able to actually grab something like that. So, anyways, so yeah, Rush Coil really still rocks even to this day. So even then, note that it should be pretty pleasant surprise. So yeah, you get the drill. And if you couldn't tell right there, that extra life still makes a return as far as Mega Man 7's goes. So even then, note that if you want to pick up these 1-ups immediately, then you would able to actually just to keep yourself alive as soon as possible. So anyways, so Burst Man stage is very much like how it does in new forms of Bubble Man stage from Mega Man 2 and oh, what's the other level for Mega Man 4, I wonder? I'm assuming that, oh yeah, Dive Man level for Mega Man 4, and especially noticeable with the forms of Centaur Man level for Mega Man 6, that, it's gonna takes place in underwater. So, if you want to able to survive for this place in during time, then by all means I missed that item. Oh, shoot. And as you can tell right there, there's actually this new item introduced in Mega Man 7, and that's the forms of these little, bolts, which even then, we'll explain more on that later. So even then, note that, for the most part, one thing I'm gonna admit though right away though is the fact that, unlike in any other Mega Man games in the series that, patience and observation is key to victory, for some reason I had a hard time trying to able to deal with the forms of leaps of faith sometimes, because even then, you probably can tell with how this is all going, because even then though, until we get to the later stages throughout the game, then, well, we're not going to get to that point right about now, because we're now going to be doing with these disappearing blocks, which even then, I don't think we actually come towards the hardest points of these disappearing blocks until the very end of the game, because even then, you guys should probably know the drill for this point. So, and there's the R right there. So hopefully we might as well be able to get the R, which actually represents Rush. So even then, note that, obviously we do need to find 4 letters apiece, so, you know. And of course, much like in any other Mega Man games at this point, especially noticeable since Mega Man 2 all the way up to 6, energy tanks makes a return, but unlike in new forms of, ever since Mega Man 3 through 6, then normally you carry up to 9 of them. But this time around though, the limitations could be present by the forms of since Mega Man 2, you can only carry up to 4 energy tanks. So even then, if you want to able to actually pick up as many of those energy tanks for your disposal, and you might as well save things up and during that time period, then you weren't able to actually just to classify for able to actually carry up to 4 of them. So anyways, folks, here we go. On to this next boss in Mega Man 7 we have is Burst Man. And his weakness is the forms of the Freeze Crackers. So if you're most able to actually know what you're doing, and this boss might be a little bit tricky and challenging if you know what you're doing. Especially noticeable how the fact that you need to dodge a lot of bubbles. So even then, that as long as you know what you're doing, you should be alright and stuff. But even then, though, that and also if you manage to get caught by the bubble, you manage to get into the actual spikes for the ceiling. So I suggest you're able to actually keep on fiddling around with the controller, and then you would able to actually break free just fine. So there you goes. Yeah, it's not too bad of a boss fight though, I think, but even then, you're gonna have to be extremely fast if you want to able to actually break out for that bubble in just in time. So even then though, that should be pleasant surprise, and it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, every time you actually beat the level, sometimes you're able to actually get back into Dr. Light's lab, and basically he tells you about the hints, and especially what the Robot Master's weapons will do. So even then though, as you can see, that we've actually got ourselves our next Robot Master's weapon, and that's the forms of Danger Wrap, which actually provides something very helpful until we get to the next Robot Master, and that's the forms of this particular guy on the left. And here we go, onto Cloudman. So even then though, this should be very interesting to say the least, but even then though, we'll get to that point as soon as we're able to jump into this level in general. So, here we go, onto Cloudman stage, and basically it takes place in Outer Skies, so very similar to the likes of how it does in the Airman stage from, well, to be more accurately, from Mega Man 2, and especially noticeable with the forms of, I don't know, it's actually forms of, Windman stage from Mega Man 6, so, again, because it's been a while since I've gonna be coming back into the Mega Man series at this point, because even then, yeah, the levels gimmick-wise in Mega Man, on this case in Cloudman stage, now the forms of the weather control. And basically, every time you actually, depends on what weapons you're using. Before we get into this, however, though, let's go ahead and use Rush Coil to get extra life, and able to actually use the Freeze Cracker to be able to use that onto that specific robot right there. And that way, we should be able to change the weather system. So even then, though, yeah, that's the thing I liked about the forms of the Mega Man series entirely, though. Also, is the fact that depends on what weapons you're going to be using. Is the fact that you can able to actually not only just manage to use that for some certain occasions, but also you can actually manage to use that in certain different environments. So even then, take Cloudman for example. Now, how the fact that if you use a Freeze Cracker onto that stage, then you would able to actually see that every single aspect about this stage is now in snowy environment. So even then though that, yeah. Of course, that how the fact that I've already mentioned about this before, that I'm gonna be playing this on the Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 on the Mega Man 7 game, is because not only because it actually brings us to the forms of HD visuals and stuff like that, but also because of how the fact that you know, in the Wii U eShop version of Mega Man 7, that it has a lack of widescreen support sometimes, but also there's actually this one exclusive word that in the forms of the original Super Nintendo version, that because of the fact that well, we'll get into more details as soon as we get to the later stages throughout in the game. And let's go ahead and use the Rush Coil really quickly, and discover that not only do we get another extra life, but also, if we manage to use the Rush Coil all the way to this big of leaps of faith, we finally managed to get ourselves Are You There? So, even though technically this might be the first attempt on this recording session of Mega Man 7's first part, but ultimately though, for my recording methods, this is actually my second attempt of doing this, because even then, I accidentally missed the forms of You There. So, now we've got ourselves the last letter to able to spell Rush. So even then though, that again, we'll get to that point as soon as we get to the next Robot Master level, by the forms of Junkman level. But even then though, we'll get to that point. So, anyway, so, if you see those little bright yellow capsule thingies, this way allows you to be able to actually restore your health, just like in the forms of how it does it in previous Mega Man games, how the fact that you can able to restore your health in during time. So, if that's the point, then yeah, you guys should know the drill. So anyways, let's refill ourselves the forms of Rush Coil really quickly. And because the reason why we need to be able to restore our Rush Coil's weapon is because of this particular alcove of the ladder. In this case, the hidden area, which actually leads us to... Oh, that's a familiar whistle. Hey, Proto Man. It's been a while, Mega Man. Well, at least ever since brief appearance since Mega Man 6. Here's a little information. Your weapons can be used to discover hidden areas, which I've already did from, you know. Try using a flame weapon in the woods. Okay then, seems promising enough. So yeah, for Proto Man, he now appears several times, unlike in new forms of how it does it in Mega Man 6, because he only makes his brief appearance because the only weapon or the item that he gave you is the forms of the the energy balancer, which even then though that could be applies for this game, which again we'll get to that as soon as we get to the later stages. And as you can see, right from the bat though, I'm having a hard time trying to deal with the lack of depth when it comes to jumping, precising, platforming skills entirely. And as you can see, because there's these bird enemies from Mega Man 2 are back. And this is actually a great way you can able to actually rank up your screws right there, because not only if you want to try to deal with the forms of the Mega Buster's charge, then you would able to actually get yourselves a whole bunch of not only weapon pickups, but also by the forms of these screws right there. So even then though, if you want to able to get yourselves the maximum effort, by the forms of the actual screws, because even then, there's actually something a little bit more different for a change than the likes of how it does in the forms of the previous Mega Man games in the series, that we'll get to that shortly afterwards. So even then, let's go ahead and use Rush Coil in case if we're about to be jumped to leaps of faith, and switch over quickly to Mega Buster, and that's quite a lot of damage by the forms of these little mini birds, and quite frankly, these mini birds don't give me as many trouble as the forms of how it does in Mega Man 2. So here we go on the forms of Cloudman, and his weakness is the forms of Danger Wrap. So even then, if you manage to use that at the right time, then you would able to deal the damage on this particular Robot Master. You need to be exactly at the right points, because if you manage to let him use this particular electrical lightning ability right there, then it will probably not to let the actual damage output with the forms of the actual Danger Wrap in during time. So if that's the point, you need to time at the right time, then you would able to actually deal the damage of the forms of Cloudman. So it's pathetically easy if you manage to know what you're doing with that specific timing skills and whatnot. But even then though, as long as you know what you're doing, then you would able to do it just fine. So there you go then. So 3 Robot Masters are now done, and now we're going to be moving on to the 4th one, but first off we're going to see what the actual Robot Master's weapon that we've got. And that, I believe, we're actually going to be coming across into the forms of, Thunderbolts. And I do apologize if my voice is actually going a little bit more off today, is because, not only because I felt overslept last night, but also because of how the fact that I almost felt slightly sick. So, but even then, I'm sure that Twilight Sparkle will fetch me some buckets. So, anyways though, now let's move on to the 4th Robot Master in Mega Man 7. We have is Junkman. So yeah, you get the drill from this point. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started right here. So seriously, I really do love the actual 16-bit sprites this time around though, at least because of how the fact that we managed to get this over with by the forms of the 8-bit setting. Well, not until when we get to Mega Man 9, but even then now that we can get the suggestions for this point. So anyways, yeah, there's just the bolts right there I might as well get, but because of my lack of jumping distances, I'm always having a hard time with this point. But even then, aside from that though, there's not much else to discuss. So anyways, let's go ahead and just get this thing going. And another extra 1-up. That's nice. Because again, Mega Man 7 is very generous with some of these random pickups sometimes, which even then, oh boy. Yeah, sorry about that for this point, ladies and gentlemen, because even then, I almost felt incredibly sick at this point, but even then, as long as I will be fine for the most part though, other than, well, you know. Anyways, let's go ahead and go all the way over there, and you probably need to actually just manage to switch over to the freeze cracker for this section right there, because you know there's actually a hidden alcove, because even then if you manage to use the freeze cracker, then not only does it give you an alternative route, but also it gives you the final letter in the forms of spell out rush, and that way if you manage to collect all 4 letters in the forms of the rush, means you can actually now manage to get access to the super adapter, which if you remember from the forms of the likes of how it does it in the forms of the rush adapter, or the jet adapters and the power adapter for the actual Mega Man 6. Well, this is pretty much a combination of the two, and as you can see I have to take my death here because I need to go back in here. Because of that though, I need to pick up a next item I need to able to get to, which even then though, that's although before I get to this however though, You know the jet adapters and the power adapter from Mega Man 6, which are individual by the way. Well, in Mega Man 7's Super Adapter, which basically feels like a combination of the two, which even then, although unfortunately though you still can't do a sliding ability with that specific ability, which even then I suggest you pick that Super Adapter immediately, because not only it gives you platforming skills easier time, but also because of how the fact that well, your abilities, mainly the forms of the power adapter inside of you, and even especially noticeable with the forms of well, you know, the jet adapter, they can able to use that for a few seconds. Then you would able to actually realize that your power limitations does not limit it at all. So, and as you can see, we've actually got ourselves our next Rush ability, and that's the forms of Rush Jet, which even then behaves exactly like how it does in the forms of, to be more specifically, Mega Man 4, and especially noticeable with the forms of Mega Man 5, because even then, if you manage to use him, then it'll carry you straight forward. So even then, though, that, although because of that, though, you can't still able to turn back, though, unlike in the forms of Mega Man 3. So even then, though, that makes it very obvious with this little, limitations as far as this is concerned. So anyways, let's go ahead and use this Rush Jet to be able to actually bypass this section completely, because for some reason I just had a hard time with this particular section for some reason. Whenever first time I played this game on my Nintendo Wii U Virtual Console version, but as long as you know what you're doing with this particular maneuvering platform to dodge through, then you would able to actually notice that just as fine. So anyways, and as you can see, we're almost at the very end of the Junkman's level right there, and only need a health pickup in case if we're about to be dealing with the next Robot Master. And speaking of such, we actually got ourselves all full health, so not bad at all. So anyways, Junkman's weakness is the forms of the Thunderbolt, and basically what you have to do is basically that, well, we need to simply use the Thunderbolt immediately. So if you manage to know what you're using to deal with, then you would able to deal an amount of damage with the forms of Junkman. So you just have to wait until whenever he just, does like a, well, a brief time recovery, and if you manage to able to time your shots just right, then you would able to actually just to deal a lot of damage on the forms of Junkman. So, but yeah, that's all that usually becomes with the forms of Junkman. He's actually rather easy compared to the likes of how it does in Freeze Man, because he has so many attacks to his disposal. But aside from that though, that some of the Robot Masters can be very easy to defeat. Well, 2 exceptions, or 3 exceptions this time around though, which even then we'll get to that later point down the road. But even then, once you do with all 4 Robot Masters to your disposal, then, something else will happen, which even then, but first before we get into this anything else, we got ourselves the Robot Master's weapon that we can able to actually see what the actual weapon itself is called, which even then though that we'll get to that certain point as soon as we get to this little scenery. And we got ourselves the Junk Shield, which actually provides very similar to how it does it in the Plant Barrier and the Skull Barrier, but I'll get to more details on that weapon later. Welcome home, Mega Man. Dr. Light, what do you think of Bass? His actions don't seem to indicate a threat. I don't believe he is our enemy. What is this? Wily is attacking the Robot Museum. What? A Robot Museum? You must leave now, Mega Man. Okay, roger that. So yes, we got ourselves the one of those mini kind of levels like this, which we're now going to be apparently we're going to be exploring through the Robot Museum. Gee, I wonder why. But in here, we got ourselves these brief references by the forms of the past Mega Man's robots, like the forms of Snake Man, Blizzard Man, Pharaoh Man, Heat Man, and especially with the Plan Man and the Skull Man, and that's all there is to know. And, well, would you look at that, Dr. Wily or Willy managed to able to always use Gutsman for this entire time. I mean, geez, this guy has seriously hard on for Gutsman. I mean, back in Mega Man 1, we see his statues off in Mega Man 1, and the Gutstones in Mega Man 2, And you can't even tell me how the fact that in the final boss in Mega Man 3 that Gamma always inspires by the forms of Gutsman's design. I think Willie's trying to tell us something here. So anyways, we have this particular random robot of any sorts, and his weakness is the forms of the Thunderbolt, and first of all you need to use the Mega Buster's charge shot before you're able to actually get his head off of its body. And then after all that, usually just manage to able to switch over by the forms of the Thunderbolt if you manage to do an insane amount of damage on the forms of the actual head. And then as soon as you deal with all that, then you would able to classify for able to deal with this boss fight no problem. You need to be very careful though, because even then though sometimes he hops around, but other than that though, he's very easy to deal with right there. Even then though, he only does like just only for one pattern though, so even then though, that's all he really does. Of course, you can't able to deal the amount of damage with the forms of its head though, as soon as you're able to actually stop spinning. But apart from that though, very easy boss fight in general, so... But yeah, but again, I do apologize if my voice is actually going a little bit more off there, but until the next video, I will get my voice better. Mega Man is a disaster. Willie and his robots are rampaging through the middle of the city. Get going. Okay then. That's all you have to say for this point, Dr. Light. And if you think that we're going to be approached into the forms of, oh, we got 4 more Robot Masters. Okay. As you might expect it from Mega Man series, that we got ourselves 8 Robot Masters, just like how it does it from before. But I'm afraid, folks, and ladies and gentlemen, and every brony and ponies out there, we got to end things off at this point here. So join me next time on Let's Play Mega Man 7 for the Super Nintendo or SNES. It's the fact that we're going to be taking on, I'm pursuing Turbo Man next, but he forms of the next 4 Robot Masters to deal with. So, see you guys then. Later, fellas.